Welcome to the Code 4 Couples podcast, focusing on topics for law enforcement officers and couples to keep you and your relationship connected, resilient, and Code 4. Now, your host, law enforcement expert Cyndi Doyle, author of Hold the Line and My Wife.
Hi there, welcome back to Code 4 Couples. Today, we are talking sex, and I am super excited. I have not had somebody to come on and talk about sex and relationships for a really long time, and I am excited to be able to bring a different topic to you, and also somebody that I consider a friend, Dr. Heather England. She is a PhD in clinical sexology. I did not even know what sexology was until I met her, and she's a certified sex therapist. As a relationship coach and a certified sex therapist, she helps countless couples rekindle love and sex. She is also an expert in erectile dysfunction. She has a course in that. And you may be thinking, what ED? I don't need to talk about that. But here's where Heather hooked me one day is she and I were talking and she's like, there's a connection between trauma and ED. And I went, that might be something to talk about as well. Another really cool factoid about Heather is that she graduated from West Point. How badass is that? And she was in the 5th class in which women were allowed to graduate. She served in the U.S. Army as an officer. So Heather, welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for coming on and being willing to talk about this topic.
Well, thank you. And after that introduction, wow. I think if I'm ever having a bad day, Cyndi, I'm calling you up to pump me up. I feel great.
Well, okay. The first thing I want to know, and I want my audience to be aware of, and you have a brother-in-law in law enforcement? You're connected to law enforcement somehow too, right?
Yes, he's retired now, but he was a policeman in Montgomery County in the DC area.
Oh, wow. Okay. A lot of action.
Yeah.
So I want to know how you got from West Point graduate in Army to erectile dysfunction. What's the path there?
Well, it's kind of a crazy path. I think that's an awesome question. You know, I loved my time in the Army, but I ended up getting out of the service and working at Hallmark Cards as a senior manager in a technology and innovation area for about 14, 15 years. So I was pretty comfortable around men. I was at a male-dominated university. Then I was in the service for 5 years. Then I was in a technology engineering area for another 14 years. So I've had a lot of men that worked for me. I was around men all the time, and I've always been very comfortable with men. So what happened when I left Hallmark is I really wanted to go into a helping profession. I had always wanted to help people, and I just felt like that was the next step for me, right?
Yeah.
The next way for me to kind of put my energy out in the world, so to speak, and help people. So I went back to school, and I'm a lifelong learner. And so I ended up going all the way through getting a PhD in clinical sexology, which is the study of sex. Because as I started to work with people, it was amazing to me. I thought I was going to talk to a couple about their relationship. Sex always came up. Okay. As I thought I would talk to individuals about what was going on in their life, sex came up because we're sexual beings, and sexual health is a huge part of who we are as people. So the more that I worked with people in my private practice, the more ED came up amongst the men. And because I was so comfortable working with men and had worked with so many men in my past careers, a lot of men felt very comfortable with me. And so they would look on my website and I would resonate with them, and they would think, hey, here's a person that would get me. I work in a male-dominated profession. I think she'll get me, right? So that became kind of the start of learning about erectile dysfunction more, because I had so many people coming to me with ED. And then, well, holy smokes, whammy, my personal life, right? So in the process of all of this, I'm in a long-term relationship with a wonderful man. and we started to go through erectile dysfunction ourselves. And the journey we went on was really tough because, boy, when you have erectile dysfunction in your relationship, it's hard. It's hard on both
It is.
partners.
It is. It's
Okay.
really hard on both partners. And not
Yes.
only because if you haven't gone through something like this, you can probably relate to this. If there's ever been a time that you were sexually intimate, you're laying there in bed and then the equipment doesn't work right, or you get hijacked, your brain gets hijacked and you're out of the moment and you've lost that moment. And then a lot of times our partners, they don't know what to do about it. They're like, oh, well, what do we need to do? Do we need to focus on it now? Or it can be the other side of the round of like, you do you not find me attractive?
Hmm.
And you're talking about the commonness of this. And ironically, I knew I had this podcast coming up this week, but I had 3 couples this week, one entrepreneur in their late 20s, actually, he's very early 30s, 2 first responders, and they're struggling with a couple of different factors. But then let's add on in first responder world the fact that we have limited time. So now there's like the
Mm.
how do we approach this subject, and we're stressed out and we know we need to have sex or we want to have sex, but then everything doesn't work. I'm so excited about breaking this down a little bit for couples overall. I want to talk about the first tidbit that you and I had kind of started talking about before, which you told me there's a higher correlation with erectile dysfunction with those that have experienced trauma or PTSD. Can you talk a little bit about that statistic? Tell me what goes into that.
Exactly. No, I would love to. I do want to circle back to one thing, though, which is why I
Sure.
became so passionate about this.
Oh, yeah.
So, I'm a sex therapist and I deal with this all the time. Okay. Helping my clients through it.
Hmm.
So, when it started to happen to me and our
Hmm.
relationship, I went through all of the same things that
Yeah.
all of my clients went through, all those feelings, all those questions. What just happened? Is he soft? Am I not doing the right thing? Am I not turning him on? All those questions. And we had to figure out how to navigate it in our life. I
Hmm.
knew how to do it. It was still hard. It was still
Yeah.
hard, even though I knew how to do it all. It gave me a great empathy for people going through this. And the bottom line is our sex is so much better now than it ever was before ED. And that's really the message I want to get out to people is if you're suffering with ED, wow, there's so much you can do and your sex can just be magical. I'm grateful that it ended up happening to us because we are
Hmm.
closer now, we're more connected sexually, we're more open sexually. I just wanted to put that out there before we got deep
Yeah.
into
Yeah.
talking
Absolutely.
trauma and the heavier parts of sex. There is research on the correlation between PTSD and trauma and sexual dysfunction. It has been done with military veterans, combat veterans, and military veterans. And it shows there's a significant correlation between both of those. We can logically make that leap. Okay, that first responders, that's pretty similar. They're likely, even though there hasn't been specific research done with first responders, they're probably going to fall into that area because really it comes down to stress response and anxiety and what that does to your erections.
Okay. Tell me about when you're talking about the stress response and reaction. How does that correlate?
Sure
Talk
thing.
about. Mhm.
Okay. When you have a stress response, it's typically fight or flight. The trauma, the PTSD that a first responder goes through, they're going to feel a lot of things inside their body as a result of that. Okay. The way our bodies are designed, in order to get and keep an erection, you actually have to be relaxed. And people don't realize that, but you have to be in the part of your nervous system that is the relaxed part. When you start to get a stress response, we are biologically wired. Okay. Think about the caveman running away from the woolly mammoth long time ago. We are biologically wired for our blood to go to all of our major organs. It's a survival mechanism. What happens is when you get an erection, the smooth muscle tissues of the penis relax and it allows blood to engorge in the penis and get hard. Well, when you get stressed or you start to feel any kind of anxiety, what happens is you get tense and that blood just goes right out of your penis and it gets diverted away from all of the small parts of our body, all of our smaller organs, into the bigger organs like our lungs, our heart, our major muscle groups, so we could run away from danger. It's bio, and
It
that
just
is
redirects everything.
yes. And when you start
Mhm.
really understand that, you start to realize, oh, it's not me doing anything wrong. This is survival of our species. This is how the plumbing works. Okay.
Yes. Yeah, I was thinking about, I talk a lot about the vulnerability in session. I talk about if you're going to have an orgasm, you've got to put those walls down. You've got to become vulnerable. You've got to become open. And a lot of people talk about getting in their head, but you're talking about the getting in the head part too is, am I safe? And then you have that reaction, that fight or flight reaction that you're talking about. And then the body's reacting to that. And so all of these aspects of what's required to remain hard or to come to orgasm, actually it's the most vulnerable state you really have to stay in and be in. And since biologically our bodies are kind of wired differently, and so while sex is such a need that we all have, our brain gets rewired to be fight or flight. Oh my gosh, are you satisfying your partner? And all of these aspects for that fight or flight system, which is more sensitive to our first responders or people that have been in trauma too. So that makes
Right.
sense.
You are spot on. And the thing about erectile dysfunction is it just takes one time, right? Because what happens is if you have one time of ED, then the next time you go into a sexual situation, you're worried.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's
Am I going to hyper focus on it? And so that ratchets up the stress and the anxiety you feel in your body. And so what happens is you start to worry more about, am I going to perform well? We call that performance anxiety. And you become almost like a spectator in your sex. You're kind of thinking about what you're doing and how you're doing it. And you're so hyper focused on,
like
am I
analyzing
getting
it.
hard enough? Am I right? That you miss out on all of the cues that are going on because you're not present in the moment, right? So you're not paying attention to how good your partner's skin feels, how well they smell, how they're touching you, how it feels. You're so focused on, am I going to get hard? Am I going to stay hard? Should I penetrate now? When should I start? And you rush things, right? Because you're like, okay, I'm kind of hard. Okay, I need to do it now. And then you rush it. So you rush into sex before you're really ready. And then you get soft. And then you kind of reinforce this whole negative cycle. Okay. And the thing I wish every man could realize is, I hate to say it, but ED's coming for you at some point in your life. You are going to have, it's kind of a hard way to say it.
It's
but
coming for you.
It is, because chances are you're going to have it at some point. Pretty much every man on the planet experiences ED at some point in time. It's what you do with it and how you manage it. And if you are already wired because of trauma or PTSD to be more into that stress response, when you have ED, it's going to hit you more. It's going to hit you more with anxiety. And then it's going to be harder for you to recover from that, to kind of let it go. So the next time you go into a sexual encounter, it's not weighing on you. It's not that question in your head.
What I was just thinking too is probably an added this with first responders is the hypervigilance aspect. So the difference between military and first responders, specifically, I'm going to say law enforcement, is that in the military, many times you're going out on a mission. So that's the period of time of hypervigilance, whereas law enforcement have a longer period of hypervigilance. And so that hypervigilance, and it's hard to put away anyway when they come home. And so I can already think of also just that hypervigilance that's running in the background too, that could impact it. Yeah.
I think you are exactly right, because I would have to guess that ED would be worse for a first responder, honestly, if they were to do the research studies with first responders because of that hypervigilance, because you're so focused on that, right? And
Right.
it just ratchets up the anxiety.
I'm going to throw you a little bit of a curveball because I didn't give you this question, but I'm going to throw it at you. So, what are some of the traps that couples fall into when they experience some type of erectile dysfunction or struggles with letting things go or coming to orgasm? You mentioned one already, which was rushing into it. We kind of mentioned also the perception of what's really going on. Are there other traps that couples fall into when that happens?
There's a whole host of them. Okay. Most people don't understand the myths versus the facts about erections and having sex. Okay. And they think that a 40-year-old penis is supposed to respond like a 14-year-old penis.
Or a 34-year-old penis? Yes.
Yeah,
Yes. Yeah.
exactly.
Right. Even so.
Yeah. And as you get older, you need more physical stimulation and erotic stimulation to get hard. And
Okay.
by erotic, I mean, it could be verbal, it could be talking, it could be visual, it could be what your partner's doing or wearing or how their body looks. It's a whole host of things. It can even be the sensuality of lighting a candle, setting mood lighting. It's all those pieces, but you need more and more stimulation as you get older. And a lot of people just think they should just instantly get hard, right? Or a partner may think they don't have to give a lot of physical stimulation because they didn't used to have to. Okay.
So
Body does change.
aging has something to do with this for
So,
sure.
so
What
understanding
else?
aging, understanding that a big mistake people make is the focus that they have is intercourse. They are so one-minded about intercourse is your success, right? So if you don't have intercourse, it's not successful sex. And what I always try to get my clients to understand is to think about redefining sex as anything pleasurable. And if you can, as a couple, come up with what I would call maybe a sexual buffet, right? You go to the buffet to eat, right? Some days you feel like chicken, some days you feel like fish, some days you feel like salad, right? So the same is true for sex or pizza. Maybe you want a pepperoni pizza today, but you go to the sex buffet and you've got lots of things you can do that feel great. So why not expand your repertoire? And that's where ED helped my husband and I, because caused us to start doing lots of things that really weren't on our radar. And oh my gosh, they are so much fun, right?
Yeah.
So you kind of expand yourself. So some couples get stuck. They also get stuck in a vanilla rut, right? So if you had the same food every day of your life, even though you loved it, say you love pizza, you'd get kind of sick of it after a while. It just wouldn't have the same bang. Well, same with sex. If you're doing vanilla sex, you're doing the same position, same foreplay.
That's what I was going to say. It's like, okay, step one, touch boob, right? So like it's kind of like some couples wind up having that, and it's pretty common where it's like, okay, this is what we're which just a little bit like sometimes many times I have couples that come in and women have been conditioned to be like, oh, you're going to kiss me on the neck. That means we're going to have sex. And which is like an immediate, it doesn't become like a turn on. It becomes like, okay, now you're pulling at me to do something and take me away. So switching it up and changing what the routine, I guess, or changing things, making it Neapolitan ice cream as opposed to vanilla is really important. Okay, good. You're good.
Yes, exactly. Okay, wait, I'm going to send a quick text to the people in my house. Could you please get off the internet? Because I have a feeling my college student is home and gaming. And I want to make sure we have a good connection. So sorry for that divergence there.
That's okay. Not a problem. Everything gets edited.
Oh, good.
So it's really there's more to change things. Right. Hold on one second. I've got to lead us into because we took a break there. So having different flavors than vanilla is really important. What other things are important?
Other things that are important is actually talking about sex. Okay.
Have to
Yeah.
talk
Imagine
about.
talk about it, right? And a lot of people struggle to talk about sex, but it's once you rip off the Band-Aid and
Mhm.
start doing it, it becomes easier. Talking about sex for a couple might look like, well, what do you want to do tonight? Well, okay, well, we had ED the last time. So if we have it this time, what do you think we should do instead? Let's have a plan in place for what else we're going to do, right? Let's do oral. Let's do this or that. Let's just switch it up, right? So actually talking.
I love that because a problem that I know we both see is well, that's a problem. Let's not talk about it. Right. So it's an avoidance. That's probably one of the traps, right? Right. The trap is the avoidance of talking about it. And it becomes the thing that's hidden in the closet. And because you're not planning for it, just think of budgets, right? If we have a car repair, we're going to need to pull money from something else, right? We talk about those kinds of things. And that for sure is a trap, not bringing it up and bringing it forward. What I'm going to swing again really quick and then we'll come back to traps. What do you think prevents people from talking about it?
Oh, I think shame is
Mhm.
one, because when someone has ED, oh my gosh, they feel such shame. They feel they're failing somehow. They're less of a man. They
Mhm.
just feel really, really bad about themselves. And for their partner, it's almost like they don't want to bring up the elephant in the room because they
Yeah.
don't want to hurt their feelings. So sometimes this is all out of love that keeps people from talking about this. I also think we don't talk about sex enough in our society. So people are uncomfortable with it. It feels awkward, right? For many women, we are socialized that somehow we're dirty if we talk about sex, that if we want to express a sexual need, we're dirty people, right? That's not appropriate. So I just think that people haven't really learned how to do it. They really
The shame, I thought you were going to say the shame aspect. And I think you're thinking about as a partner, not bringing it up, well, you don't want to shame your partner, right? The other aspect, law enforcement specific to this, is that most law enforcement personnel are very driven to win.
Mhm,
Right. Because if they don't win, they don't go home. Right. It's a
mhm.
life and death situation. And so one of the things you said earlier is redefine what success is in regard to intercourse. And so if we have the belief that success is orgasm for both people through intercourse, and then I failed at that, that becomes shame.
Yep.
Failure is the number one shame in men. And then
Mhm.
it's just this huge effed
Shame
up
spiral.
cycle, right?
Yes.
It's a spiral, the
Yes,
shame
it's a
spiral.
shame
Yeah,
spiral.
it's
Yeah,
really what it is. Oh my
yeah,
gosh. So
yeah.
talking about it is really important. So bring it out into the open, right? I think about Brene. Brene's shame is the shame thrives
Shame
in
in
the
a
dark,
petri
right?
dish. Right. It
So
thrives in
bringing
it.
it out into the light, talking about it is
Right.
really important.
Exactly.
Are there other traps? Because
Yeah.
I was thinking a trap might be for sure to personalize that as a spouse, personalizing it.
Yes, exactly. So, one of the big traps and mistakes people make is that the partner will personalize it as, okay, well, what's wrong with me? Am I not sexy enough for them? Do I not turn them on? They may even wonder, well, are they having an affair? Like, are they not into
Mhm.
me anymore? Women, our bodies change as we get older. We have babies, we gain weight, we may have some extra pounds in different places. And women in our society have such a hard time with our body image anyway that can really play a big part in this. But yeah, women end up thinking I'm not enough, okay,
Mhm.
which is a horrible feeling. And so when that happens, they may withdraw from,
Absolutely.
yeah, and they also may sometimes say some mean things because they're hurt, right? And we all know that when we're hurt, it's easier to show anger than it is to show hurt. Like it's safer to show anger
Absolutely.
than it is to show the hurt because the hurt is really vulnerable,
Yeah.
right? So a lot of times women will personalize it and they won't have that conversation with their partner. Their partner won't be able to reassure them that, no, honey, you're so attractive to me. They just don't
Mhm.
have the conversation that would be healing for both of them. When you said something a minute ago, Cyndi, that I want to segue off of is when you talked about the avoidance of talking. Well, a huge mistake that's typically more on the man's side than the woman's is they will avoid sex and they'll avoid any show of physical intimacy, right? And then they even take that beyond that to sometimes they start to avoid any type of intimate event that could lead to sex. Maybe they don't want to go out on date night, or maybe they stay up extra late watching the ball game because they don't want to go to bed at the same time as their partner because they might, what if their partner initiates sex? Because they're so afraid of failure because they're in that pass fail mindset of intercourse. Intercourse
Wow,
only.
the stories that get created, right? The stories that get created from that behavior and how that could just spiral out into many different problems.
Exactly.
And in actuality, that avoidance is shame-based.
Right, right. And the problems are not at that point, it doesn't really cause as many sexual problems as it causes relationship problems. Because
Absolutely.
if your partner now is sitting there thinking, oh, they don't want to touch me, like, and they're longing for touch, they're longing for that physical connection, but their partner's not initiating sex, or even they've said, I want to have sex, but because of their ED, they're avoiding sex, right? Then it's can really take them to a place where they don't feel loved. And it causes a disconnection in the relationship, unfortunately.
I'm going to shift us a little bit from that point, because one of the biggest challenges with first responder relationships, and I focus on law enforcement. And so with law enforcement and like fire service, you two different schedules, but there is limited time that couples have to find the place for intimacy or find the place for intercourse, because we have regular life, we have problems with sleep schedules, we have problems with shift work, we have problems getting called in. My husband, probably for the last 7 years of his career, because he's now retired, but for the last 7 years of career, he was on call 24/7.
Oh,
And so we could be in an intimate moment
oh my gosh.
and it would be where like the phone might buzz for a text message. Well, we don't know what that text message is. So guess what happens, right? Everything gets interrupted. And then it's like start all over again, or calls, or just the thought of like, I'm on call. I don't know what's going to happen. Do I have time? So there's so many different aspects. So what do you recommend for couples to stay connected or be able to have that door open? And because once again, we're dealing with the pressure, right? So we can throw the ED in there, or we can just look at the idea of the pressure of like, this is the time we need to have sex, right? How do couples navigate that successfully? What are some of the things you recommend?
Yeah, that's a powerful question. One of the things, and I'm going to give you a little kind of foundational information before I fully answer your question here.
Great.
But one of the things that helps any couple is to really start to know what turns them on, right? So if you know your turn ons and your turn off, it's really helpful. Emily Nagoski is a researcher and educator who came up with this really great way to understand this. Okay, to think about this is think about gas and brakes in a car, right? When you hit the gas, you hit the accelerator, right? So you accelerate. When you hit the brakes, you stomp on that brakes, you kind of stop things. So if you think about arousal, you want to know what hits your gas, what turns you on, and what hits your brakes, what turns you off. Just like in a car, you can't have a foot on the accelerator and have one on the brake and expect to go. Okay. So in terms of arousal, if something's going on that's hitting your brake, like say your partner has really bad breath that day. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Maybe too much coffee. I don't know.
Yep. You need to get your foot off the brake. You need to fix that So you can have the chance to build your arousal, but everybody responds a little differently. So everybody has a little different triggers for what arouses them and what hits the brakes, but everybody should know that. And you should know your partners, right? That's part of sexual
So
communication.
that's the first step, is to
That's
know
the first step.
what's the gas and the brakes. Okay.
Right. Right. Second step would be, how do we as a couple set up the right kind of context for sex? Okay. So
Tell me more.
by context, I mean, it's the environment of having sex. It's whether we need to plan for it. Okay. Whether it's knowing, you know what, I'm on call and I probably have like a 20-minute window, right? Like, what can we realistically do in this 20-minute window? And if you're not in that pass fail of intercourse, you can do a lot of yummy things in 20 minutes, right?
Heck
So
yeah.
context
I'm
is,
totally on board with that.
yeah, even less time, right? You know, context is making sure you've got the right kind of setup so you can hit your gas and not hit your brakes. Okay. And so it also includes how you're feeling about yourself and how your partner's feeling about themselves. So in order to really be aroused and have desire for sex, you know, you have to be feeling good. Like, women typically have to feel connected to their partner. So it's hard for them to rush into sex. I
always say women need to be kept on simmer.
Yeah, that's a great way to look at it, right? Men are more like a microwave. Women are the crock pots, men are the microwaves.
Yes, that's
right?
perfect. Yes.
Right. But the pathway, if you think about how we experience love, okay, for many men, and I'm just going to be gender stereotyping here, their pathway to love is sex. For women, their pathway to love is emotional intimacy. Like, it's connecting before sex. Okay. So they're more likely going to want time spent with them, affirmation, all of those things that can make them feel connected to their partner to even be interested in having sex. So they feel loved and valued in all of those kind of pre-sex things. So a great way to think about sex and foreplay is foreplay starts at the end of your last sexual encounter.
Ooh, I love that. That is going on Instagram. Foreplay starts at the end of your last sexual encounter. Wow.
Exactly.
That really, I had a car analogy going on because you did the gas and the brakes. And so when you were talking about context, I was thinking about the road itself. Does it have a bunch of potholes? Is there a cliff? Am I going to drive off the cliff? Does the car operate correctly? Really, you're starting to form that road after the last one. And that is such a great analogy to think about. Hey, you've got to be thinking about this the whole entire time in your relationship and keeping things going. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
So we
So
have
a common break is feeling rushed. Okay. So when you, in your scenario, when you say you're on call, you're rushed, you don't have a lot of time, that's a break for a lot of people. Okay. Or being nervous that you're going to get interrupted. Right. So that can be a break. So I think you have to realistically understand that your sexual encounter might get interrupted and you're going to make the best of it. And if we would make sex be a little more fun and playful and not put so much pressure on ourselves that it has to be the end all be all, because honestly, about 15% of the time, sex is knock your socks off. It is phenomenal. About 60% of the time, it's good. It's okay. Scratch the itch is good, right? But the other 15% of the time, I don't think I quite added up to 100, but you know,
that's okay. I don't do math either.
Right? The other times there's a problem. And either someone doesn't orgasm, you're too dry, there's pain, someone has ED. But the problem is we all think every sexual encounter should be that top 15%. So we don't give ourselves permission to just have okay sex. Right. And if we would just take the pressure off ourselves that You don't have to give your partner a mind-blowing orgasm every time. Sometimes guys with ED, they get hung up on that. They get their thought process is, okay, well, we got to have intercourse because I got to give her this mind-blowing orgasm through intercourse. I got to be so good and perform so well. And what they don't get is only 30% of women can orgasm from intercourse. Everybody else needs
I
lots
actually
of
knew that, but I don't know
other,
that everybody else does. Yeah.
right. They need other clitoral stimulation. So if you're thinking intercourse is going to be the thing, it might not be what your partner really wants. So
Yeah.
ask them what they really want, right? But if your mindset
Perfect, yeah.
is, this is how I succeed, gets back to that failure success thing, you're setting yourself
Mhm.
up for failure, right? You really are.
It's what I'm hearing consistently from you is change the expectation. That is a huge part of this, is understand that there are some barriers to everybody, and that if you change the expectation to being playful, I heard that this time, and what success kind of is as a couple, that's really important. And I think that bleeds over to when we're thinking about our specific situations with law enforcement in regard to time and distraction and thinking about sleep schedules, everything that I was mentioning, that really has a lot to do with it, and setting up those expectations. One of the things, first of all, is very obviously know yourself, right? Turn ons,
Right.
turn off, your gas, your brake, the context of things, being fun and playful. Are there other elements that couples need to be aware of?
You mean globally for addressing ED, or in that specific scenario you were asking
In
about?
the specific scenario, yeah.
Yeah, I think that setting expectations, being playful, knowing themselves, right?
Mhm.
By expectations, we're talking about realistic expectations,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah. Mhm.
I think communicating, setting up what can we really, it's part of expectations, but it's also that context of, okay, we know we've probably got a short window of time. Let's see what we can do. And they also have to be comfortable with their partner finishing for themselves. Some people
Yeah.
aren't comfortable with masturbation, right? But man, if you're in the heat of the moment and you get that
Mhm.
call and you just can't get back into it, right? Like
Yep.
you're
Yep.
called out, no pun intended there, you're called out, then there's no reason you can't finish yourself, right?
Right.
And you can make it kind of fun. You could be doing that while they're on the call.
Oh,
What a turn on that
it's
would
like
be,
those
right?
it's like those videos that I saw over COVID where people were walking into Zoom calls naked and things like that, right? But Heather, I think one of the aspects here that you're talking about, it just hit me when you were going through that again and talking about the communication and the expectations and knowing yourself. And I feel like there's a freebie that I want to put out, but what I was hearing is it's like, okay, you know what? We need to talk about these things ahead of time. Let's talk about a plan. One of the struggles with law enforcement couples and officers is decision making because they're tired, right? So
Mm.
hypervigilance makes your frontal lobe tired, your prefrontal cortex needs nap. And so if we've talked about these things ahead of time, as a spouse, while it's not my responsibility all the time, but as a spouse, if we're in that and we've talked about that, and maybe the officer isn't thinking through what they want to do, but if we've talked about ahead of time, okay, what's our plan B if equipment doesn't work? It's always important to have a plan B. You know, if my flashlight doesn't work or my recording, I can't think of things right now. Sorry, guys. But if my equipment, you know how important equipment is on the job. If my equipment doesn't work, what's my backup plan? There's always a backup plan. There's always backup. We're talking about having a backup plan. The other thing is knowing your tools, your techniques, knowing, hey, what's right in this situation for the time, which is a skill that they all use, right? If I
Right.
know how do I assess this situation and how do I pull out the right thing at the right time? No pun intended, pull out. Anyway, I love the innuendos. Part of what we do, if we talk about that ahead of time as a couple and brainstorm it, then both partners know, even if one is tired, yes, I want to. And I kind of got a 15-minute window before I need to go to sleep, or the kids get home or whatever it is, or I have a lunch break, right? Hey, these are things that we can do, because I think in that moment, that decision-making process can shut things down. Do you know what I mean? That sounds a really good game plan in that communication that you're talking about, to really just dig in and start brainstorming and be really honest
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
what works, what doesn't work, what can work as a couple to get us connected sexually.
Yeah, exactly. And you mentioned fatigue several times in there.
Mhm.
And I just got to tell you, fatigue is one of the biggest breaks there is.
And I just wanted
And
to repeat that.
yeah, I think it's really important. And when do most people try to have sex?
At
At the,
10:30 at night when they're going to bed, which I
exactly.
think
And
is
they're
dumb, but I know.
exhausted. Yeah,
Yeah.
exhausted.
Yeah.
And they're thinking, oh, we finally have time. Let's have sex. And
Mhm.
then they're thinking, oh, I don't want this to take longer than 15 minutes because I want to go to bed
I
because
gotta
I'm
go to
so
sleep.
tired. And I'm
I
thinking
gotta get
about
up
what
at
I got to do.
5:30.
And I'm thinking about what I got to do tomorrow. So if all that's going on, how are you going to be in the moment? Like being focused on all of those wonderful sexual cues. You're not. You're going to be, okay, let's just do it. And here's another thing. This is another good Instagram post, but I'll put it on mine, is sex is not a thing you do, really. It's a place you go to with your partner. It's a place where
Wow.
you celebrate one another. You celebrate
Mhm.
your love, right? It's not just this, let's get off. It's sex has so many different things for people. And sometimes you're hungry for one thing. Sometimes you might be hungry for connection. Another time you might be hungry for playfulness and you want to do something fun. You want to play out a fantasy or something. Another time you may be hungry for just the raw power of sex, for the really good
Yes.
orgasm.
Mhm.
You
Mhm.
can want sex can be so many different things to people, but for couples, no one else is ever going to have what you have together. It's something only the two of you share, right? So it's a thing, it's a place you go to together. It's a place where you celebrate the uniqueness, the specialness of your relationship. And when you can be
Wow.
vulnerable and trust your partner in that place, it's incredible. It's phenomenal when you can have a man have ED in that place, and then it's not a big deal. And they can almost, I don't want to say laugh it off, but it doesn't tank them. They can say,
Mm.
but I love you and I want to please you now. I still want to pleasure you. So let's do this instead. Okay. And what a lot of men don't realize too is you actually can orgasm when you're not hard. Right. So
Wow.
yeah. So you don't need to give up. And a lot of times your erection will come back. If you
Yes.
given the right kind of stimulation for the right amount of time, it will come back. But what I wanted to say though is if you're tired, it's probably the wrong context. Okay. It's the wrong
Yeah.
time to have sex, because if you're already struggling with ED, why set yourself up for a situation that's probably not going to be successful? So rushing and doing something when you're really exhausted, probably you should take those off the table.
In everything that you just said, once again, there's some themes that you're bringing up
Mm.
here. And the biggest themes that I'm hearing over and over again for you that you're communicating to us is letting us know that it's it's playful, that there's not a finish line in regard to this is
Mhm.
what it has to be, that it can be anything you want. I love the concept of it's a place that you go to be with each other and celebrate each other. And that when you said that, it shifted something in me even
Mm.
to go, I never thought about it that way. And finding the time to go to that place together takes maybe some pressure off to
Mhm.
say, let's go do it, right? Because that's a
Mhm.
lot of times what it is. It's okay, well, let's go have an orgasm together. But celebrating it as a place to be in your relationship is just, to me, just a really nice image for
Yeah.
everybody.
Yeah,
So thank
it's
you.
pretty special. Now, I will tell you one thing that couples could do if they are really rushed for time is, if they're
Mhm.
okay with it, oftentimes someone with ED is able to masturbate and get hard and masturbate. Not always,
Okay.
but a lot of times they can, which is really frustrating for their partner because they think,
Yes.
hey, save it up for me, save it up for me. Well, it doesn't work that way. Okay. So there's no saving it up, but it's easier to get hard when you masturbate because you know exactly what feels good.
Mm,
Whereas when you're with your partner, there's another variable in the room, right? But when
yeah.
you're
Yeah.
getting the exact stimulation you need, because you know exactly what you need to get hard, it's easier to do that in solo sex.
Okay.
Okay. And sometimes men touch themselves in the wrong way. By wrong, I mean they may touch themselves too hard when they masturbate. It's too much of a grip. They don't use lube. And so they kind of almost create a neural network that that's what sex is supposed to be. But a soft,
Mm,
squishy vagina doesn't emulate that kind of grip that they would have
right.
masturbating. So it can be different, right? So if you're rushed for time, why not both of you lay next to each other, kiss, and then mutually masturbate?
That works.
Success, right? It's,
Done.
believe it or not, it's actually pleasurable and connecting. You have to kind of get over your hangups about masturbating in front of your partner, right? But when
Right.
you,
Yeah.
wow, it is life changing when you can do that. It's very freeing. Because
You
again,
have
it's
a
another thing on the buffet.
Right, right. You have a lot of good ideas. You have a lot of good information. And I know that there are going to be some people out there that want to connect with you more because this is just a tidbit of the things that you know. And I'm sure that there are people that are going to be like, hey, Dr. Heather, how do I increase my buffet? How do I cook some good dishes for the buffet? So how do people reach out? How do they get a hold of you? What's the best way for people to add to their buffet through you?
Well, thanks for asking that. The best way to, I love that. Just love the buffet thing. Add to the buffet the, because life is too short for boring sex. We got to have great sex. The best way to get a hold of me would be really through my website, lovefilledlife.com. It's love and then filled, FILLED life.com. So lovefilledlife.com. And you can sign up to get the newsletter. And I send out weekly tips on sex and love and relationships. I've got a great blog on there. And
Don't
I've
you
got,
also have an online course though
I
too,
do,
right?
I have an online
What is
course
that?
on erectile dysfunction. And the thing that's great about this course is it's the only course of its kind that is focused on not just individuals, but their partners too. So it takes into the account all of the relationship aspects. Because even if you have medically caused ED, it's still going to
Mhm.
impact your relationship. You're still going to have some psychological issues like the anxiety, right? So I wanted to do a course that would be not just for individuals, but also for partners. So I let partners go in for no additional charge because I want to really kind of incent that for people. Some people will do it just by themselves, but then there are people that do it with their partners and they get a lot out of it.
Yeah, I think it's a couples based issue.
Mm-hmm.
And so it makes sense that both partners in the couple are educated on how to work with this and how to have that sexually connected relationship and help each other to feel safe and connected. And yeah,
Yeah, it is. It is. It's a couple's problem. It's not just the person with ED. It's not their problem. And when you label it as just their problem, it makes the shame worse.
yeah.
Okay. But when they can be in it together as a team, they're approaching all of it as a team. And all of the research shows that the success rate is higher when the partner is involved. Now, if you don't have a partner, you can still take the course as an individual, and the learnings then you can apply in your next relationship. Because not only do I go through the whole background of ED and what it is and all these interventions you can do individually, but I also then take you through the things I would teach couples in couple sex therapy to help them to have a better sexual relationship. And then at the very end of the course, there's actually an exercise that helps walk the couple through a communication about how do we handle future ED? What are we going to do? Let's make that
This
plan.
this
Let's figure it
class
out.
that class sounds like it's worth its weight in gold, the benefit that it'll have. And the other reason why I thought it was important to bring up the class and the course is because a lot of times with our couples, with law enforcement couples or first responder couples, they don't have the time to go to therapy to address
Mhm.
this. And not only do you have the barrier of, oh, it's embarrassing, I don't want to go talk about it, but the second one is time and finding time together. So to me, a course is a great way to connect with our community. So thank you from our community for putting a course out there. We can access it online when it works for us at, 3 a.m. in the morning or whatever it is. I appreciate that so much. So
Well,
if
thank
you
you.
want to get a hold of Heather, Dr. Heather England, you can go to her website, lovefilledlife.com. I'll also put that in the show notes and in the blog. I'll put a link to her course as well as all the other information that she shared today. Heather, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate it and sharing everything that you know with this community.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here, Cyndi. It's a passion of mine. I've lived this personally, and I just want to help other people to have magnificent sex because you can.
Let's do it. All right.
Let's do it.
Thanks, guys. Until next time, guys, keep it code 4. Take care.
Thanks for joining us. For more information about the podcast or Cyndi, check out code4couples.com. All intellectual property rights owned by CRLD2 Ventures, LLC, are protected by the firm of 9mm, 45 ACP, 5.56mm, and 12 gauge.